especially a fan of Southeast Asia football, today's discussion is going to be a very interesting one. Look at this table on the screen. This is the ASEAN Championship all-time winners list, and there is one team standing clearly above everybody else, Thailand. 7 championship titles, 7. And that immediately raises the big question for today's live stream. Is Thailand the undisputed king of ASEAN football, or are Vietnam and Singapore getting closer? And what about Indonesia? Because Indonesia is one of the most interesting teams on this entire list. They have reached the final 6 times, but according to the table, they have never won the championship. 6 finals, 0 titles. Think about that for a moment. That's an incredible statistics. So today we are going to go through this table team by team. We are going to talk about the champions. We are going to talk about the teams that came closer. We are going to talk about biggest surprises, and most importantly, I want to hear from you. So get into the comments right now. Tell me who is the greatest ASEAN football team all time. Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, or somebody else. Put your answer in the comments and don't just give me the team name. Tell me why. Let's get started. Before we start debating, let's actually look carefully at the numbers. At the top, we have Thailand. Thailand has 7 titles and 4 runner-up finishes. Then we have Singapore. Singapore have 4 titles and 3 runner-up finishes. And Vietnam have 3 titles and 2 runner-up finishes. Malaysia have 1 title and 4 runner-up finishes. And then we get to Indonesia. Indonesia have 0 titles but 6 runner-up finishes. That number jumps out immediately. 6. Indonesia have been one of the most consistent teams in reaching the final, but they have not managed to take that final step according to this historical table. Then we have the Philippines with no titles and 1 runner-up. Myanmar with no titles and 1 runner-up. And Cambodia with no titles and no runner-up finishes. Show on the table. So already before we even discuss individual tournaments, there are some fascinating stories here. We have the dominant champion Thailand, the multiple time champion Singapore, the modern challenger Vietnam, the nearly their team Indonesia, the historical finalist Malaysia, and then teams still looking for their breakthrough. This is why our tournament history is so interesting. A simple table can tell you a story, and today's table tells us a very interesting story. Let's start with the number 1, Thailand, 7 titles. That is the number everybody is looking at. 7. If we are talking purely about championship success in the table, we are looking at Thailand are number one, and they are not number one by one lucky championship. They are number one because they have repeatedly found a way to win. The image also highlights Thailand's championship history, including including titles such as 1996 and 2022. And that's important because it shows something about the length of Thailand's success. This is not simply a team that had one great generation. Thailand have repeatedly returned to the top. Now here is my question for you. Does 7 titles automatically make Thailand the greatest ASEAN national team? I'm going to pause there. Put your answer in the comment, yes or no. Because there are two different ways to define greatest. One way is simple, who has won the most? If that is your definition, Thailand have a very strong argument. But another definition is who had the greatest generation, who produced the best football, who had the most dominant tournament, who had the biggest impact on the region. Those questions can produce different answers. So let's discuss Thailand. 7 titles means that when this tournament comes around, Thailand have historically been a team that other nations have had the respect, and that creates something physiologically important. Often opponents don't just play Thailand, they play against Thailand's reputation. Imagine being a young player entering an ASEAN Championship and knowing that the team on the other side of the pitch has won the competition 7 times. That's pressure, and it's also confidence for Thailand. The question is not, can we win the tournament? Historically, the question is often, can we add another title? And that's completely different mentality. Now, viewers, here's another question. If Thailand win another championship, does that end the debate about the greatest ASEAN team? Or can Vietnam still challenge that status? Let me know. So guys, I have to focus my audience. Let's talk about, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your great support. Thank you everyone, thank you. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Zan. Thank you everyone. Guys, I'm missing your comments. I'm missing your likes. 23 people are watching. Thank you, thank you. So, we have to talk about second team. But I'm missing your comments, I'm missing your likes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Who rules Southeast Asia? ASEAN Championship all-time winners. Full history, all facts, live now. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now let's move to Singapore. 4 titles that puts Singapore second on the table, and I think Singapore deserves more respect when people discuss ASEAN football history. 4 championship is not a small achievement. Look at the table again. Thailand 7, Singapore 4, Vietnam 3. So Singapore are sitting right there among the most successful nations in the history of the competition. The image highlights Singapore's title year including 2004 and 2012, and that gives us another important story. Singapore have had periods when they were extremely competitive in this tournament. They were not simply making up the numbers, they were winning it and winning it repeatedly. And now here's something I want everyone watching to think about. Football changes. A team can be dominant in the one era and then struggle in another. Players change, coaches change, tactics change, youth development changes, and competition changes. So when we look at 4 Singapore titles, we should recognize that historical achievement, but we should also ask, can Singapore return that label? Could we see another Singapore golden generation? That's a great discussion. If you are a Singapore supporter watching this, tell me, what does Singapore need to do challenge Thailand and Vietnam again? If it youth development, is it coaching? Is it investment? Is it the domestic league? Or is it simply about producing a special generation of players? Let's talk about that in the comments. I'm missing your comments, I'm missing your likes. Thank you very much. Thank you for your great support. Thank you. Now we come to Vietnam. 3 titles, 2 runners up finishes, and the image includes Vietnam's 2024 championship. This is extremely important when looking at the direction of ASEAN football. Vietnam have become one of the most important football powers in the region, and when you see 3 championships on the historical table, you can see why. Thailand has 7, Singapore has 4, Vietnam has 3. So Vietnam are already right behind those 2 historical. But here is the interesting part. Vietnam's story feels like one of a team that wants to close the gap. Three titles is not the end of a story. It could be the beginning of a new era. Now let's talk about that 2024 title shown in the image. A recent championship can have a different physiological effect from an old championship. Now you win a tournament recently, the next generation grows up seeing that success. Young players think we can do this, we belong here, we can be the best team in the region. That's extremely important. Success creates belief, and belief can create more success. So I want to ask everyone watching, can Vietnam eventually overtake Singapore's 4 title? And then the bigger question, can Vietnam eventually challenge Thailand's 7? 3 versus 7 is still a significant gap, but football history is not written in one tournament. A team can win 2 or 3 championships in a relatively short period, and suddenly the entire conversation changes. Vietnam have already established themselves as a major ASEAN football power. The question now is how far they can go. Now let's talk about Malaysia. Malaysia have one title, one, but look at the other number, 4 runner-up finishes. That's fascinating because it tells us Malaysia's have been close, very close. The image highlights Malaysia's title in 2010. So Malaysia have tasted championship glory, but their historical records also tells us they have experienced a lot of heartbreak. 4 runner-up finishes means they have repeatedly reached the biggest match and failed to finish the job. And anybody who has played football knows how painful that can be. You can have an excellent tournament, you can beat 2 strong teams, you can reach the final, and then one match determines whether your campaign becomes history or heartbreak. Malaysia's record is therefore a perfect example of how football is not always about bearing or being good enough to reach the final. Sometimes it's about being good enough to win the final. Now imagine Malaysia's winning another championship. What would that do? It would change the conversation. Suddenly Malaysia would have 2 titles, and if they could build on that, maybe they could become a serious challenger again. So here's today's Malaysia's question. Can Malaysia return to the top of ASEAN football? Malaysia supporters, I want your answer. Yes, Malaysian supporters, what is the biggest thing missing? Attack, defense, consistency, player development, tactical identify, or simply consistency from one generation to the next. Let's hear. So guys, now we reach the statistics that for me is perhaps the most fascinating on the entire screen. Indonesia, 0 titles, 6 runner-up finishes. Let me that again. 6 finals. Yes, 6 finals. That is one of the great stories of ASEAN football because getting 6 finals means Indonesia have repeatedly been good enough to reach the final stage. They have repeatedly been among the strongest team in the region, but something has gone wrong at the final hurdle, and that's what makes Indonesia so fascinating. Imagine the psychological weight of another final. The players know the history. Everyone knows the history. Every missed opportunity adds to the pressure. At some point, you start hearing the question, will Indonesia ever win? And that question itself becomes pressure. But there is the positive side. Indonesia have repeatedly produced teams capable of reaching the final. So the ability to create clearly there. The challenge is turning tournament competitiveness into championship success. Now I want to everybody in the comments to answer this. Is Indonesia the greatest ASEAN team never to win the championship? Because if we are judging the by 6 runner-up finals, that's a very strong argument. But some people will say, no, a great team has no win. And that's where football debates get interesting. Which matters more, consistency or trophies? Would you rather have 6 finals and 0 trophies or 3 finals and 3 trophies? That's a fascinating debate. Put your answer in the comments and let Indonesia fans, this is for you. What needs to change for Indonesia to finally win it? Thank you guys. 3 likes have been received. Now let's give some attention to the other nations on this table. The Philippines have 0 titles and 1 runner-up finish. Myanmar also has 0 titles and 1 runner-up finish. Cambodia are shown with 0 titles and 0 runner-up finishes. But here's something important. Historical tables can change. Every football nation starts from somewhere. A team that has not won before can eventually produce a golden generation, and once that happens, everything can change very quickly. Look at how football history works. One generation of talented players can transform a national team. A strong coach can change a team's identity. Better youth development can create pipelines of talent, and suddenly a team that was previously considered an outsider become a genuine contender. That's why I never like saying the team can never win. In football, you should never say never. The challenge for these emerging teams is to close the gap. Can they compete physically? Can they compete tactically? Can they develop enough players? Can they handle pressure? And perhaps most importantly, can they believe? Because eventually someone has to break through. Who is the real king? Question is that. Okay, now let's get the big debate. We have looked at the table, we have looked at the teams. Now I'm going to give you my question. Who is the real king of ASEAN football? Let's put the candidates on the screen. Thailand 7 titles, Singapore 4 titles, Vietnam 3 titles, Malaysia 1 title, Indonesia 0 title but 6 finals. If we are judging purely by championships, Thailand is number 1. There is one complicated argument needed. 7 titles is 7 titles. But if we are talking about the entire story of ASEAN football, we needed to consider different eras. Singapore's 4 titles are significant. Vietnam's 3 titles, including the recent success shown in the image, are significant. Malaysia's repeated final appearances are significant. Indonesia's 6 runner-up finishes are extraordinary. So maybe the better question is not who is the greatest, maybe we should ask who is the most successful. Thailand, who is one of the most historically successful challenges. Singapore, who is the one of the strongest modern power. Vietnam, who has experienced the most final heartbreak. Indonesia, who has repeatedly come also after winning once. Malaysia, every team has a story. So guys, now I have to focus on your comments, but I'm missing your comments. Thank you very much. Hi Gary, are you there? So guys, thank you everyone, thank you. I'm missing your comments. Thank you everyone for joining my live. Thank you very much. So, the rising question is that who will be the most powerful team? Thank you. So guys, thank you very much for your joining. I'm missing your comment, guys. Now let's make this interactive. I'm going to give you some quick questions. Don't overthink them. Just answer in the comments. Question number 1, Thailand or Vietnam? Question number 2, Thailand or Singapore? Question number 3, Indonesia or Malaysia? Question number 4, which team will win the next ASEAN Championship? Question number 5, which team has the best chances of challenging Thailand's 7 titles? Question number 6, can Indonesia finally win their first championship? Question number 7, can Singapore reach 5 titles? Question number 8, can Vietnam overtake Singapore? And question number 9, could we eventually see a completely new champion? Put your answer in the comments. I'm going to give everyone a few seconds, and if you are watching the replay, I still want your answers because these debates don't expire. Let's forget history for a moment. Let's imagine the future. Imagine Thailand winning another championship. Their number gets even bigger. 7 becomes 8. Imagine Vietnam winning again. 3 becomes 4. Now they are labeled the Singapore. Imagine Singapore winning. 4 becomes 5. Imagine Malaysia's winning. 1 becomes 2. Imagine Indonesia's final winning. 0 becomes 1, and suddenly that entire historical table looks different. That's what makes football beautiful. A table is never truly finished. Every tournament gives teams an opportunity to change history. For Indonesia, one championship could completely change the narrative. The Vietnam, another championship, could establish a new period of dominance. The for Thailand, another title could strengthen their position as the undisputed historical leader. For Singapore, another championship could revive their claim among ASEAN's titles. For Malaysia, another title could prove their historical success was not just a memory. And for the other nation, one breakthrough could change everything. So after looking at the table, here is my overall assessment. If we are talking about historical championship success, Thailand are clearly number 1. 7 title is an incredible record. Singapore deserves enormous respect with 4. Vietnam are right behind them with 3 and have established themselves as a major force. Malaysia have only 1 championship, but 4 runners-up finishes showed that they have been very competitive. And then there is Indonesia, 6 runner-up finishes and no title. That is perhaps the biggest what if story in this table. But football is not only about what happened yesterday, it's about what happened next. And that's why I think ASEAN football is so exciting. There is a clear historical leader, there are established challenges, there are ambitious teams trying to close the gap, and there are nations waiting for their breakthrough. So guys, let's make this even more interesting. I'm going to ask you to rank the top 5 ASEAN's teams based on historical achievement. Don't use FIFA ranking. Don't use individual players. Just use championship history and overall tournament impact. My 5 would be Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia. But I am not saying that that's the only possible ranking. I want your ranking. And here is the different and difficult part. Do you put Indonesia above Malaysia, even though Indonesia's have no titles? That's where the debate gets interesting. Here is a hypothetical question. Imagine each ASEAN country could choose one player from its entire football history to play in their prime today. Which country benefits the most? Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. And would one superstar actually be enough to change the historical table? Maybe, because football tournaments can sometimes be decided by one player producing one special moment, one goal, one save, one penalty, one piece of brilliance. That's why history can change so quickly. Okay, prediction time. I want you to pretend you are the coach. You have the choose one team: Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, or another ASEAN nation. You have one choice. Who are you talking to win the next champion? And don't change your answer later. Put it in the comment now. Let's see who gets it right. So, Thailand have 7, but who's coming for number 1? That is the question we will answer in the next live stream. So thank you very much for you joining. Stay healthy, stay blessed. Thank you very much for your joining. Thank you for your liking. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much. But I missed your comments too much because so Thailand 7, runners up 4, Singapore 4, runners up 3 times, Vietnam 3 wins, and 2 runners up, Malaysia 1 title and 4 runners up, Indonesia 0 title but 6 times runner up, Philippines 1 time runner up, Myanmar 1 time runner up, and Cambodia 0 time champion and 0 time runner up. So thank you very much for your joining. Thank you everyone. We will meet you in my next live. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Thank you everyone.